Hello and welcome to Soap Scoop, the Inside Soap podcast. And today we've got a very special Christmas extravaganza where we'll be reliving Christmas past and our favourite festive episodes. So hopefully you'll enjoy this trip down memory lane as we discuss the best bits from Christmas past. So it feels only fitting to go back to what probably was the very first special, monumental Christmas episode. Johnny, this is one of your favourite Christmas episodes of time gone by. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm just going to say 3 words. Happy Christmas, Ange. Now, who doesn't raise a glass at Christmas of a snowball or a sherry or whatever your poison might be, or a lemonade, and say, Happy Christmas, Ange? Or is it just me? I don't know. It's so ingrained on the culture, isn't it? I mean, I think if you're a certain age like me, you remember it from the time. But I do feel it's up there with You Ain't My Mother, Get Out of My Pub. It's just become such a huge, huge thing because back in 1986, when I was merely a child, EastEnders had only been going a couple of years. It was so huge. Den and Angie were the breakout stars. We'd spent most of that year building up to a big reveal that Angie had lied about having 6 months to live so that Den wouldn't leave her for his mistress. It kind of sounds small fry now, doesn't it? When you think of the really twisty-turny secrets and things that soaps build up to in long-running storylines. It was kind of brilliantly simple in a way, but it had such an emotional punch because we were waiting for this secret to come out and for Den to confront Angie and all of this. I always say, one of the most famous soap moments is, a middle-aged couple by a flight of stairs in a hallway and a man gives a woman a piece of paper. It was 30 million people and a cultural touchstone. Shows you the power of those characters. And also, yes, there were less channels, there was no streaming, so it was a more captive audience. But it was payoff. And I think what we need to talk about in Christmas in soaps is payoff for the audience, the delayed gratification. We could not wait for this moment. We didn't know how it was going to go. We didn't know how it was going to come out. I was about 11 at the time, and honestly, it was the biggest deal. We were just waiting for Angie to be rumbled, and we really cared about these characters and we'd been on that journey with them. But basically payoff of a big long-running story arc and a big secret that we can't wait to explode. And isn't that what Christmas became really after 1980? It was really the turning point year because EastEnders was so massive and the other soaps hadn't done Christmas like that ever really. Obviously Corrie, Emmerdale, Crossroads was still on at that point in the original iteration. They acknowledged Christmas and it was Christmas because it's in real time, but I don't think they'd really pushed a big reveal or built to a peak at Christmas until they did with Den and Angie, because EastEnders saw that opportunity. It's the biggest audience of the year, or it was then. I still think event telly is massive at Christmas, even today. Look at Gavin and Stacey, things like that. So it was like, well, why wouldn't we just save our biggest moment for when potentially there's more people watching telly than any other time of the year? And it was the blueprint for Christmas in the soaps. For me, I don't think anything will ever beat it. Maybe that's my age, maybe that's nostalgia, but it's and I think I've spoken to soap producers and writers over the years about this, and they still say it's the blueprint. They still say it's the one not to beat, but it's the one to remember, because that's what people want at Christmas in the soaps, I think.
Well, like we say, obviously Christmas was done before then, but it was such a game changer in terms of people's expectations, this big payoff. And I guess we always expect EastEnders to do a big reveal or a big twist or a big moment around the dinner table. And something that perhaps EastEnders does that maybe the other soaps don't is, and probably where it gets its reputation for being a bit of a misery fest, is often there's someone grabs the turkey and throws the dinner across the table, or there's
people are thrown into the dinner a lot of the time while still having party hats on. I think when Mick and Dean were having one of their big fights, I think it's 2015's Christmas, I feel like everyone still had the paper hats from the crackers on their head. Yeah, it's kind of miserable. And isn't it also like you watch Christmas in EastEnders to make your Christmas day feel like, it's not as bad as I think. If you kind of don't get on with your family, you've had a row over, how to carve the turkey. Well, at least you're not, the Beals or the Carters.
I do remember seeing an interview with Chris Gascoigne, plays Peter Barlow, saying the thing for him is when you watch the scenes and everyone's in their paper hats, it does kind of make the arguments look a little bit silly. But I think, haven't we all been crying and screaming at someone in a paper hat at Christmas at one point?
And if you're not, you're doing Christmas wrong.
Exactly. So you talked about one of your kind of favorite EastEnders Christmases, and well, one of mine, talking about horrible moments with the food across the table. Mine would have to be Trevor Morgan and Little Mo, and that horrendous, grim, miserable Christmas where poor Little Mo spent more time with her family because Zoe had come home and she was so excited, only for Trevor to be waiting at home for her. And then when she gets home, he forces her to eat her cold Christmas dinner and then puts her head in the gravy. Memorable, iconic. I mean, obviously that storyline was a game-changing moment for EastEnders because I think it did so much good in terms of raising awareness for domestic violence. Trevor, one of the most chilling, awful villains that they've ever had, but for me, one of the top Christmas moments, even for a horrible reason, but an amazing moment for EastEnders.
Yeah, and like you say, it raised so much awareness, and EastEnders very known as well of, as Den and Angie, iconic couples and Taylor Burton style spats. But EastEnders also has done so many issues so brilliantly. Perhaps, yeah, Trevor and Little Mo's domestic violence story, one of, if not the best, I think, that they've done over the whole 40 years. To have the bravery as well to show that at Christmas, when traditionally all the telly's really happy. And also just, that message, like, not everyone's having a great Christmas out there. But genuinely, Trevor and Little Mo's situation, very, very sadly, that's, probably being played out somewhere, as awful as that is to think about, that someone's going through that any time of year. But it kind of shone a light on an issue that needed to be raised and on vulnerable people and people whose lives are at risk. And again, something, soaps didn't really do around that time until EastEnders came along, really. So I think that's why that really sticks out, I would say, and just really just dramatic. What it's for any bit of television drama, whether it's a soap or not, whether you feel snobby about soaps, that's one of the most affecting pieces of TV drama I think we've ever seen on telly. And that was a snapshot of a story that ran for years. It ran before, it ran after, but it is another facet of EastEnders, isn't it? It's that really flies the flag for how successfully they've tackled very, very difficult subjects.
We'll go back to the kind of doom and gloom of Christmas on the Square in a bit, because there's been some amazing kind of deaths and some standout moments from Walford at that period in time. But I just want to touch on Corrie at Christmas, because their take on Christmas has been a little bit different. And I wonder whether, from their point of view, whether they've thought, okay, well, we can't beat EastEnders in terms of kind of grit and the tense Christmas dinners. But what can we do? We can bring the warmth, we can bring the humour, the things that Corrie lovers are tuning in for. What's been some of your Corrie Christmas highlights?
Generally, as you say, Corrie is much more cozier and warmer and fuzzier. And it's interesting, isn't it? You think of the kind of brand values of EastEnders and Corrie. EastEnders, you'd immediately say that grittiness, and Corrie, you would say that humour and that warmth. So they kind of lean into what the show fundamentally is about. I remember one year, I don't even remember what year it was and what the big story was. I just remember Eileen, I think with Violet and Sean maybe, just being at her house, feet up, fluffy reindeer slippers, antlers, Christmas jumpers, eating Quality Street and watching films, and nothing really happened. But every time we cut to that living room, I just thought, this is the best soap Christmas ever. This is wonderful. And you probably wouldn't get that in the other soaps. So yes, I do. I enjoy that. Again, being a certain age, I do remember fondly Hilda Ogden leaving Weatherfield on Christmas Day 1987. And it was just like a beautiful, lovely tribute to this iconic character. And again, you've probably seen the clip, but it was just nice. She sang a song, everyone cheered, everyone said goodbye. No one threw any punches, no one threw anyone into the turkey. That kind of sums up a classic Corrie Christmas. Community and the warmth and the closeness. Not to say there hasn't been drama, because obviously there is. I think one of the more dramatic things that come to mind was Dev and Deirdre getting it on. Oh, yes. Is it getting hot in here? That was a bit of a curveball. No one saw.
That was a shocker. I vividly remember that, and I think that was one thing that I was gonna bring up about the soaps at Christmas, not only do they tend to have a big reveal or some kind of pivotal moment, but they also are setting things up for the next year, which I think is really clever.
Yes, you've got, because also, again, going back to, you've got a captive audience, you've got a bigger audience, and perhaps people, even that, these days, with, even though, a lot of the soaps on streaming and everything, you might be non-soap watchers, and why those people exist, I couldn't tell you, might be forced to watch episode of a soap because they may be spending Christmas with family or people they don't normally, sit in front of the telly with. So you've got like potential new recruits, if you're a soap, tuning in on Christmas Day because, more people might dip in on Christmas Day. So yeah, you've got to set stuff up. You've got to do a Dev and Deirdre and do a OMG, what the hot pot just happened there. And yeah, most Christmases it's kind of a balance, isn't it, of the payoff, the secret's revealed, we find out who the daddy is, we find out about the affair, whatever it may be, but we do set stuff up for next Christmas. And again, when I've heard from creatives behind the scenes, you have got to have that eye on 12 months time, because what seeds you sow at Christmas will kind of flower in 12 months time when you've got another set of potential new recruits as well. It's about, you got to chase the viewers as well. There's a certain extent of that. You got to satisfy and pay off and reward your loyal viewers. But yeah, if you can hook people in on the one day of the year they might watch a soap, then yeah, you're going to come back to see, is there going to be a Dev and Deirdre rematch, which we were obviously all hoping for, were we? I don't know. But also, yeah, and I think another Deirdre moment, Deirdre and Ken, the on-off couple of Corrie. I remember, I've had a very 80s childhood, as you can hear. 1989, Ken had been having an affair with Wendy Crozier, and Deirdre confronted Ken over his betrayal, and it was the end of their marriage for now. Obviously they got back together 1,000 times after that. I think that's really interesting when you look back, because that was quite a dramatic Corrie Christmas for how Corrie tackled Christmas at the time. It also kind of set Tracy Barlow on this trajectory of soap minx and disruptor and troublemaker, because she was very traumatized by her parents' very bitter breakup at that time. She was about 12, I guess, at that time. And that's what turned Tracy into the Tracy we know and despise, because she just got so mucked up by this warring couple. So that really sticks out as a kind of turning point for the Barlow family. But generally, I like Corrie to have Eileen in a onesie eating chocolate.
Well, we can't have Eileen in the onesie this year because she's gone to Thailand.
Maybe Christina and Linda, they could fly.
Do you know what? That's a Christmas invitation I would enjoy. Going around their house. Christmas with George. I love George. I've not made any secret of that. I love George. So Christmas with George, I'd be very happy. Not in the Undertakers. It would have to be somewhere else.
Oh no, that would be more festive, would it? No.
But speaking of, let's maybe stick with the Undertaker topic, because actually there's a lot of death at Christmas. We've had quite a few dramatic deaths. The ones that stand out to me, if we're going back to Albert Square, I mean, we've had Pauline that had a very tragic Christmas in the snow.
Yes, kind of reference last year when Cindy got attacked
with a shovel. Yeah,
with that shovel, Kathy and the shovel. Last Christmas there was, because it was coming up to the 40th, they did a few quite knowing nods, didn't they, to like classic All for Christmas. Ian did an Arthur Fowler and trashed the living room, and but yes, Cindy in a kind of big fluffy coat collapsing in a snowy square was very reminiscent of how Pauline had that dying swan moment, which was pretty iconic. Probably one of the other most famous festive deaths. Why do people get killed at Christmas? I don't know. But Archie Mitchell, come on.
Yes, one of my favorites, I think.
Yeah. What did you like about that? Because that was very high time.
For him as a character was one of those characters that is so clever, because they're very charming, but they're just insidious, and they make your skin crawl. And some of the things that he did with Stacey and Ronnie and Peggy,
he had it coming
many times over. And I think I often say that I'm not a massive fan of whodunits, because I feel like sometimes, and I know they're a soap staple, so maybe I'm watching the wrong show. But the thing with whodunits is that often
watching Love Island, you're in the wrong biz.
The thing with a whodunits is that sometimes they have to make people who you know would never commit a murder seem really shady and have those kind of over the shoulder like hugs where they're looking a bit like I've done something I shouldn't. You know, they do things where you're like, you know, this is just improbable that they would ever kill this person. But I think the thing with Archie is all the people that were the suspects, you could believe it.
Absolutely, because it was more emotional. I think, yeah, some whodunits. I'm with you. I whodunit only works if it's kind of the emotions of it. Sometimes when it's about money or who owns the business or who's got the deeds, you know, all of that is all a bit. I don't really buy it. I don't really care. But yeah, Archie was, he was so despicable, and the emotional scars of what he did to all those suspects, you could kind of buy in a very heightened soap world that they would be pushed, as it turned out, you know, that you kind of bought it. I think the motivations were really rooted in some kind of emotional truth. That's not always the case, I think, with the lesser successful whodunits, but and also just the fact you feel Christmas is a blockbuster as well, isn't it? It's going back to that vibe with EastEnders. Christmas is your big, you know, your big movie, and so it, having a villain meet his maker and it being really quite stylized as well. Do you remember it was all slow motion, wasn't it? Was it the snow globe? It must have been. It was the bus that killed him, and a snow globe fell, and it was all quite stylistic and cinematic. So that also kind of made it quite exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, great. I mean, a great story generally, but a real, it literally packed a punch.
There are two other whodunits at Christmas that really stand out to me. Obviously, the sixth from just a few years ago. I think because it's recent, sometimes there's that feeling of we loved it just because it was a few years ago. But I genuinely think, like, even though we write for Inside Soap, I had no idea what was going to happen, you know, how things were going to pan out. I was glued. I was actually in hospital watching it. That's how glued I was. I was watching on my phone and a nurse came to take my blood and I was just like, do not interrupt. I need to see what happens. And
I was having open heart surgery and I stopped it because I needed to know.
I just gave her my arm and I was like, take my blood. I don't care what you're doing to me. I need to see EastEnders. It was genuinely like that because like we knew that someone would die and we had our suspects. And I had I kept thinking, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Keanu, but I'm not sure. And then obviously there was the kind of like the red herring with Nish. And I genuinely think it was really good. How it panned out, maybe not as strong as that big climactic moment, but for a Christmas episode, fantastic, unmissable.
Yeah, and blockbuster, like I say, it really amped up. Yeah, the tension and the pace was so like fast moving and so much going on, and yeah, really, really like a roller coaster, wasn't it? I agree. I think that will be remembered in years to come as a very exciting, pacey Christmas.
And the other one that stands out to me is from a few years ago now, was Emmerdale Tom King. I suppose we should say Tom King Senior now, as there was another Tom King. Yes, was pushed down out of a window on Christmas Day with Belle singing "Walking in the Air" as he fell.
Was she singing it? Remind me. Was she singing it like outside Home Farm, or was she singing in the walk pack?
It was a wedding between Rosemary and Tom, and there was fireworks. And Belle was like, I want to sing. I want to sing. I want to sing a song. And she's very kind of precocious child, 6-year-old, I think she was at the time, singing "Walking in the Air" as Tom fell out the window.
I know, that was a bit of a crash landing. Yeah, that was really juicy stuff. That's very Emmerdale as well, I guess. You know, moving on to talking about what's an Emmerdale Christmas, we've talked about an EastEnders and a Corrie one. Emmerdale has that, when it wants to, it can have that slightly more heightened feel. Dynasty and Wellies, you know, that the kind of old view of it. It can take more risks, I suppose, and it can lean into slightly more camp craziness, which I'm here for, obviously. But I think look back at Emmerdale, they have done Christmas their own way, haven't they? Like the other soaps.
Yeah, there's been, I mean, we love Emmerdale Inside Soap, and I think we've long been a champion of it. But I think it's done some really brave and bold storytelling over the years. I mean, although it was slightly after Christmas, it was New Year. We had Tricia Dingle, obviously memorably being knocked out by a chimney. I say it like it was a comedy storyline. It was obviously a very tragic death storyline.
You bet, but you can never hear that song. What's she going to look like with
I
this in
know
her
that's the problem.
Never
I
again.
always hear that song and I think of Tricia Dingle. Uh, for those who haven't seen it or haven't watched it in a while, poor Tricia has broken up with Marlon, and he'd written her a letter, 101 things that I love about you, and she's there in a phone box reading it, and it's pouring with rain. There's this awful storm going on. Actually, Ashley, the vicar Ashley, is trapped in a car. His leg might need to be amputated. It's all going
Isn't he
on.
with Marilyn from Home and Away?
Yes, exactly. With Marilyn, yeah, in the car. And then the lightning hits the wall pack and the chimney just collapses on Tricia. And poor Marlon finds her kind of buried under the rubble. And there's a moment where you think she might be fine because she gets taken away by an air ambulance. And tragically, she dies in the new year. But it was a really, like, again, blockbuster, epic, really dramatic kind of, I always think episodes set at night have that kind of special something to them, and certainly that episode really stands the test of time. And I rewatched it the other day, and it's a great episode because you've got people having fun in the Woolpack, and then you've got the Sugdens on the farm trying to kind of sort out the animals while there's this big storm going on, and something bad is going to happen, but you just sort of don't know how the events are going to pan out. And like we've said, Emmerdale is almost allowed to be a bit different and kind of take more risks at Christmas. It doesn't have to be gritty. It doesn't have to be warm. It kind of can do what it wants. And I think that's what's really enjoyable about it. And another kind of more recent favourite of mine was when they had the Groundhog Day / Christmas Carol episode for Robert, where we saw Ghost of Val. I mean, I would take Val in any form, but having her as a ghost was joyous.
Yeah, and always in a white trouser suit and a cigarello. I don't know, I just seen her like that. Yes, that was really, I think that's one of a really good archetype of a more experimental Emmerdale Christmas. It was really, really fun. And when you think now, there's so many like high concept breaking the format episodes. There's one every 2 days, which almost fun, but there's been a lot of them, and I think the soaps are really catching on to that, to the point where are we in danger of it, the novelty wearing off slightly?
Yeah.
Emmerdale championed that, and Emmerdale were the only ones really to do that. I think the first of the the three soaps that we talked about today. And yeah, that Groundhog Day, It's a Wonderful Life, mash up, whatever it was a fairly early example of something that now I think all the soaps are kind of going after. But yeah, to do it on Christmas Day, again, like really brave. I think only Emmerdale could get away with that, that kind of high concept experimentation, and offering an alternative, I guess, on Christmas Day. If you are watching all three soaps back to back, yeah, you could kind of, again, what you get. You're going to get grit with EastEnders, you're going to get warmth with Corrie, and you're going to get maybe a little surprise and maybe a little bit of something different from Emmerdale, because it has got, I guess, that fluidity of its identity, and it's a bit kind of riskier and a bit madder as well. Like you look at some of those Emmerdale Christmases, are kind of bonkers.
Yeah,
again, quite.
I mean, even kind of going back to more sort of old school Emmerdale, we had Belle Dingle was born in a barn, and it was very kind of like nativity-esque and just kind of having that bit of fun, because I mean, I think that's what I liked about the Robert episode, because there was the humour with Val. There was Robert waking up wearing Jimmy's mistletoe underwear and things like that, where just kind of like fun touches
cheeky,
that
bit cheeky touch.
Cheeky, yeah. The Emmerdale's very good at playing with, but they're also, there is emotion in there. There is kind of sadness, grit as well. It's not just silliness. So I think probably Emmerdale has that balance of the kind of the emotional depth, but also the fun and the experimental as well. Corrie has been known for a couple of births, a couple of weddings on Christmas Day. I don't know anyone in real life who gets married on Christmas Day, but it seems to be quite a soapy thing.
A very soapy thing, and it's kind of ridiculous, and it's also only booked like a month in advance. And also, like, the guests are always there. Like, well, hasn't everyone made plans on Christmas Day? Like the whole community, the whole square, street, village, as if they've got nothing better to do. They've all got their own families, they've all got their own lives. It does baffle me that they all show up for this wedding in the middle of the day at Christmas. It's the most inconvenient. My RSVP would be, sorry, I'm busy, I've got a dinner to make for 12 people, I've got to wrap presents. I'm still not done. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would Christmas Day be without a wedding in a soap?
And actually, going back to Emmerdale, a super memorable wedding on Christmas Day was when Chaz Dingle married Carl King. But, well, I say married, didn't quite get that far because those who will remember, Chaz had found out that he was having an affair with Eve, which, side note, she named her daughter Eve. Why would you name your daughter after one of your ex's flings? You just wouldn't.
After Suzanne from Hearsay as well.
Exactly, after Suzanne from Hearsay. Should have called her Suzanne. That would have been better. So she knew about this affair and went along with the wedding to kind of screw Carl out of all the money she could get out of him. And then when it came to the big day, she had all her bridesmaids in these revolting apricot dresses that she purposely chose to humiliate Eve. And then when it got to the vows and Carl did his, I love you forever. And when she was asked, will you take this man? She said, no, I will not be faithful to this man because he's not been faithful to me. I mean, I have to say that is the Chaz Dingle that I miss. But she was epic in those episodes. That's a wedding, a Christmas wedding with a twist, because normally we get quite a happy wedding. I'm thinking of the kind of Cat and Alfie, or we get Little Mo and Billy. But of course, on the side of Little Mo and Billy, what was happening at the same time as their wedding? Can you remember?
They had a side order of death and destruction and misery because it was kind of cross-cut, wasn't it? Godfather style, with Jamie Mitchell, Jack Ryder, R.I.P. Yeah, he'd been run over by Martin Fowler, and he was dying in hospital with Sonia by his bed. And again, weird things that then happened. Sonia then married Martin, and I know they talked about it. They addressed the elephant on the road. But I always thought that was weird. But it was very emotional. And again, classic cross-cutting, a bit of happiness and a bit of sadness, literally the balance. You're crying and laughing with joy in the same kind of 2 minutes. But yeah, that was a good one. I think that was because you again waited for Little Mo to, have a bit of a happy ending after the trauma with Trevor, and her and Billy was such a sweet fit at the time. And Jamie was like the heartthrob. Him and Sonia were like such a popular couple, and it's all very sad. And also talking about the weddings, you referenced Kat and Alfie, that their first wedding, it was the year after that, I want to say 2003-ish. That all ended very happily, and there was a snow machine in the square, and everyone sang Happy Christmas songs. Many years later, I believe the great Pam St. Clement, who played Pat, said, I'm always asked, why was EastEnders so miserable at Christmas? And I said, well, we tried a Happy Christmas one year, and it didn't really work. And I always thought she was referencing that year because it was, you kind of didn't want a doof that was everyone, playing around in fake snow and smiling at the camera, almost like you have been watching. Like, no, we want a doof. We want a dramatic doof. So yeah, your wedding is often like, I don't know, it's not like it's the main event, but it's not the main story. You want a dramatic thing to happen around the wedding. But yeah, nice to have a bit of happiness. But yeah, don't forget the misery. But yeah, when EastEnders have forgotten the misery, it's not been as effective, really. They can't win the soaps, can they? If you say they're too miserable, then we don't want them to.
I mean, I guess I do understand the complaints about the misery, but sometimes that's where the heart of the drama is. I'm thinking back to kind of the awful Trevor and Little Mo year, but at the same time that was happening, I think we had like the Slaters and their turkey business. The turkey they bought was still alive and things like that. And then you have then a more emotional storyline where Lisa's hiding the paternity of baby Louise, and Mark thinks he's the father, and at the end Phil storms in and snatches the baby. I mean, moments like that yes, okay, you could watch it and go, oh, it's miserable because everyone's shouting at each other or crying, but actually you're dying to see those moments. You're desperate for Mark to find out the truth and for Phil to reconcile with the fact that he's now father. And that's to me, that's what soap's about. You want those big, you wait for those moments. One of the Christmases that everyone remembers is, of course, the Stacey and Max affair reveal. Oh, what a moment.
Stacks, I think the kids call it. That was massive. And again, it was a year-long thing. It was the year before Max and Stacey had, she'd had a bit of Al's your father-in-law to be, because she was with Bradley, and then kind of his dad had turned up in the square. We knew he was bad news. they'd caught each other's eye, and this kind of electric but toxic but dangerous but exciting and shocking affair began. And it ran and it ran and it ran and it ran, and we just, so many twists and turns for it over that year. Again, it's Max was dressed as Santa the whole time. We forget that. Max was dressed as Father Christmas. Do you think that traumatized a generation of young soap viewers? Maybe that was like you say, their first big experience of watching a big EastEnders reveal at Christmas. Did it make them scared of Santa? And poor Dot, is sitting there. She just wanted to watch the Queen's speech. She got more than she bargained for. Again, just brilliantly boiled down emotional stakes. I think that's why people remember it. And also Max and Stacey, then they're still, a gift that is keeping on giving. Obviously, Stacey's off at the minute, but before she went, there was that little crossover scene with Max. Those actors, those characters, that history still goes back to 18 years ago of the absolute carnage and chaos and upset that relationship caused. And I think that's what the repercussions of that very ill-advised affair are still being felt. Look at Max. Max is all over Christmas 2025, but Max, his defining story is his relationship with Stacey. So you've got to go back to 2007 when it all just fell apart.
I don't. So I mean, again, another big EastEnders Christmas storyline that people still talk about to this day. People who maybe don't even watch EastEnders anymore will know about that storyline. Again, that's why the Christmas storylines are so iconic, because there are people around your living room watching it that have never seen it before. But as soon as you know there's a secret and there's something under the tree that's going to reveal it, what more do you want?
Again, I mean, is this a full circle moment? It all kind of goes back to Angie and Den, doesn't it? That's what all these plots are carefully orchestrated around, reveals or turning points or secrets emerging. And yes, that's what soaps do day in, day out, but it's that payoff. And those moments you just described are the moments you want to see and the moments that you remember seeing, because we waited ages and ages and ages, for all those big secrets to come out. And then, the reveal is even greater. And that's the bit that's the clip that is played in, years to come. That's the bit you always hang on to, the moment where so-and-so found out whatever it was. Because you're right, that's the heart of it all. And, it all started in a buy some packets of crisps in a tatty old hallway at the bottom of a flight of stairs in 1986.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that one episode, even though obviously it was a huge moment at the time, has shaped the soap history forever, because we now all look forward to this time that Christmas and sort of between Christmas and New Year, where the soaps are building momentum. And I think even this year it's no different. We also know that Christmas and New Year are going to lead into some huge storylines for the beginning of 2026. Obviously, ITV are doing their massive crossover, and all the stuff that's happening at this time. So all the Christmas plots are going to bleed into Corrie, which is then going to explode into the new year. And with EastEnders and Hollyoaks, they're building up to, a new year, a new chapter, but by kind of teasing what's to come. Obviously, we've got the Max flash forward happening in EastEnders, which is going to kind of project us a year into the future. Christmas and New Year are huge moments, and if you can persuade your family to watch over Christmas with you, if they're not soap watchers, now might be the perfect time to gain some new viewers.
Absolutely. And then they can read Inside Soap every Tuesday, obviously, and find out all the kind of secrets that are coming up. Definitely. Bit of a plug there, Chloe. I hope you like that.
Well, we love a plug. We love a plug, and we love people who are really engaging with the podcast as well. We've been loving all your comments, and thank you so much for being with us on this new podcast journey that we've taken this year. Thank you for all the likes and the comments and the subscriptions. And we love those of you who wait up on a Tuesday or wait up on a Monday night, shall I say, into midnight on a Tuesday to watch us or to listen to us. Well, thank you so much. And we really hope you have an amazing time watching all the soaps over Christmas. We will be there with our quality streets and our snacks, eagerly waiting what's to come and all the secrets that probably we don't even know yet. So we're super excited as well. And we hope you've enjoyed our little trip down memory lane and all our kind of festive nostalgia that we've been delving into in this episode. So thank you so much for tuning in. like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.